Hi ladies, welcome to episode 1 in the marriage series, and this is going to cover the higher your standards, the better you have to be. Now, I've had a lot of messages from my TikTok and in my general interactions with people. I've come to realize that we live in a day and age where people are really concerned about other people reaching their standards. And I think when it comes to the female environment, we have to admit, and any grown woman will admit and understand that sometimes there's certain thoughts, expectations that we have from life that are just really not practical. And in order for us to be happier in society and as individuals, we need to be more realistic about what is it we're asking for, where we're asking it from, and whether or not that's even a possibility to achieve. So I hear a lot of things going around, especially now, like, he's got to earn this, I don't need to cook and clean, I don't even need to breastfeed my own child, etc., etc. Where in Islamic text, that is relevant and that is true. Not everybody gets to marry at a level where an individual can afford all of those extra things. Like, that is just a fact of life. Like, you can't meet a guy that works in an office up the road and expect him to be able to pay for your dwellings, pay for a maid, pay for someone to look after the children, and give you an allowance so you can stay at home and chill. So I know deep down inside, like, of course, just like men do with their marriage requirements, they're like, well, I can have 4 wives. Whatever allowances have been given to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we naturally feel like, well, I deserve them then. That's my right. And there's nothing wrong in that. But also our deen very much promotes having a practical and logical mindset. So unless you are running a top tier business, are on a CEO or directorship level yourself, the likelihood of you meeting someone that is so far above your level is highly unlikely. And it's not about killing the dream. It's about making the dream practical. Like, this world is sending women crazy. Like, I don't have to exercise, I don't have to know how to cook, I don't know how to have to do any of those skills, but I deserve the world in return. And that kind of narcissistic thought process is being promoted in this day and age via liberalism. They're like, oh, you could be whatever you want in this world. You feel free to have it. And yes, you can feel free to dream. But when it comes to the realities and practicalities of life, we have to understand what we're asking for. So I want to bring it back down to a more average mindset and average day and age. Now, from the research I've done, the average salary in the UK is still only £25,000. Now, to put things in perspective, that's approximately like £1,600 a month, I think. Anyone wants to clarify that, please do. Depending on whether you've got student loans and other things going on. Now, an average rent for a 2-bedroom or property within the parameters of Greater London, so that's not even central, that's outside the M25, you're looking at £1,200 a month. That is how the financial crisis has actually hit us in real time. Now, am I saying that takes the responsibility off the man to provide for you? Absolutely not, it doesn't. And it's a fine balance to be had here. Because if you're serious about getting married and you've met someone, you will have to meet them at the level that they're at. And if you're not willing to meet them at the level that they're at, then you cannot complain and you have to continue to improve yourself so you will be attractive to those higher tier men. Men that are earning that 1% salary want a woman that is intelligent, want a woman that understands her balance between her masculine side and her feminine side. They want women that are nurturers. They want women that will be happy to stay at home while they provide, but is providing that home life and keeping that home life up to a standard of cleanliness, peace, love, serenity. That house has to be warm and comforting. And the only way you can reach the standard of that man is if you work on yourself to no end. You have to work on your health, sis. If you don't work on your health, your hormones will be unbalanced and you will not be a pleasurable person to be around. So you already have your monthly cycle and then you're unhealthy on top of that. Do you think you're going to be a pleasure to be around? No, you won't be. You need to look after your physical health. Can you run 10 minutes without stopping? I can safely say before I was not able to do that. I've had to understand that standards come with a lot of other things. So you have to look after your health, inside health and outside health. You have to ensure that you are a high quality, standard looking woman, even without wearing 7 layers of concealer. Like, high quality men don't want women that look picture perfect outside and then when they come home, they look like death. You have to be realistic about your regime and what that is doing for you. Is it helping you? Is it benefiting you in any way? Are you able to wear less makeup and still look healthy and a bit more natural? One big thing I had to sort out, my teeth. Like, you'll go back to some older videos and my teeth are like crooked and all over the place. Does it mean that I should be now aesthetically paranoid about how I am? No, but the general standards of how you come across and how you are, they have to be top tier if you want that 1% man. That 1% man is going to be so alpha, so dominant over your daily routines and household. Are you feminine enough to deal with that? That top 1% alpha man, he will have expectations on how he wants you to look and behave and be in the house. Can you reach those expectations? Are you the type of woman that will cover herself in makeup and jewels and beautiful clothes when you go out, but when you're at home, you look like a tramp 90% of the time? Now, I'm not saying we won't have natural days. Of course we will. But there's a level and a balance in which we go around that. You want that 1% man, most likely his education or his work ethic or both are through the roof. He has a certain standard for himself. So why would he link with a partner that doesn't match those standards? So it's not about me putting the girls off like, oh, look at you, you want such big, bad things from your life. It's more about me being practical about our expectations in this life, about being practical about what we want and how we're going to get that. Now, there's a lot of things that are said, especially in our deen, about what our rights and everything are, but we forget the part of our deen that promotes us to be open-minded, promotes us to and reminds us that a rizq is sent down from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala once you do get your nikah done. And I know I focused quite a lot on the monetary things, the practical, the physical things of life, like the home and, you know, this and that. But now I'm going to move on to the emotional standards. And I truly believe this is where a lot of our women in our community, we fall short because we don't know how to manage our emotions. Now, in my opinion, where this stems from can be our parents. Now, obviously, our parents genuinely look at us and think, wow, the sun shines out of my kid's butt. Like, my kid is the most beautiful kid. My kid is the most wonderful kid. You know, they can't do anything wrong. And you're a gem and you're a star and you deserve the best. And to a certain extent, that is true. But like I've said on my title, you also have to be the best. And without appropriate managing of your emotions, you are going to struggle with that. Just like I did for many, many years. The reactions that we have towards things, our self-esteem, how we respond to certain negative outcomes in our life, what our main purpose is. Because unfortunately, even when you marry a man, he cannot be your sole purpose. As Muslims, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala remains our main focus, sis. Like, we are never supposed to get so attached, even to another human being, even our spouses, to a point where we forget what our duties are towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why in some of my TikToks I've mentioned, you know, praying is one of the things that is going to keep your camel tied. It will keep a balance and a stability in your life. Am I saying it'll make you perfect reaction to every single thing that happens? Absolutely not. We are human beings. And a large part of being in a relationship is that you discover yourself within that relationship. But you come in at a certain standard. If you want someone who's emotionally available to listen to you and for you to get all your things out, are you able to do that for the other person? Because I know full well from my own experience, when you're dealing with someone that might be unjust or unfair to you, our ability to listen goes out of the window. It goes out completely out of the window. So can you establish a mindset where you're even able to hear things you don't like and analyze them correctly and respond in a dignified manner? And if that's something you are unable to achieve in your family life, for example, like you're unable to keep a certain decorum and calm, like with your parents or your siblings when they go against certain things you think or certain opinions that you may have in the house, that is where your management starts, sis. If you can't listen to your parents giving you advice and opinion that completely opposes the way you think, and you can't deal with that with calm, logic, and respect, then a marriage is something that should be far away off your list. Like, you discover yourself in marriage, and I accept that. And there's lots of things that will come up, and you'll be triggered by things, and your marriage is supposed to help you navigate that. But you have to have that level of awareness if you want this high standard of marriage that people are going on and on about. You yourself have to be someone who can feel yourself going out of control and knows how to bring themselves back. When you feel like someone's being unfair to you or just won't listen to what you have to say, are you able to still be calm in that environment? And there's a very fine line between having sabr and being calm in a scenario. Having sabr does not mean taking as much disrespect as possible, having all your opinions completely disregarded and thrown in the window, and you still be this serene little flower in the corner. That is not the type of thing that I promote. I promote women to have a voice, but I promote them from so many experiences of my own and from women around me, that the way you deal with your negative emotions is going to be foundational for your marriages. It's going to be foundational for all of your relationships. We have a tendency to want a high standard from others. Like, I want a really calm guy that will just take all my outbursts. But you have to understand one thing, that if you are prone to having outbursts more than you are having a calm, logical conversation, people lose respect for you in that environment. I was told by a director once, about 4 years ago now, he said, when you lose your ability to stay calm, everybody in that room loses respect for you. Now, I know in relationships, it's a slightly different dynamic because it's very emotionally driven. But ladies, if you don't learn to manage your emotions in most times, in moments where it does get too much for you and you genuinely lose it, there won't be more empathy for that there, because you will have now created a impression of yourself that you just lose it at every given moment. Like, you're too emotional to handle life. And that's when men start keeping secrets from you. That's when the liars lie more. Even the honest guys, they'll start lying and being quiet more, because they're like, oh, I don't want to touch that pressure cooker. Whereas if you were simmering on a sort of a low heat, generally speaking, and every time you felt like you were bubbling, you were like, right, I need to take a minute. I need to take a minute. And what do they say in Islam when you're very angry? Drink water. If drinking water in 3 small sips, so you pick up your water, you say Bismillah Rahman Rahim, you look at your water, you take 3 gentle sips, not gulps, sips. You look at the water, you say Alhamdulillah, and you put it down. And you take a moment. If that doesn't cure your anger, you sit down. If sitting down doesn't cure your anger, you lay down. Do you have the ability to do all these things before you lose your temper? Because when you lose your temper first, sis, all the empathy, all the understanding that may be living in that man, it goes into shutdown defense mode. And this is what I talk about with higher standards more often than having a house and having this and having that. And I will cover other issues in other videos. But the standard of the way that you manage yourself is the key to demanding an equally appropriate, emotionally intelligent partner. You cannot demand or request an emotionally intelligent partner if you are not emotionally intelligent yourself. You have to be in tune with yourself. You have to understand what things bother you and why. And that takes a depth of inner reflection that a lot of people feel sort of nervous or allergic to. But when you're in a marriage scenario, you're going to get triggered left, right, and center. Nobody comes as a perfect healed package, but do you have those things, those tools in your arsenal to help you navigate through those times when they go crazy? Because if you have a bad grasp on your temper before you get married, then that daily life of marriage, that's made to trigger you. Marriage is where you grow. So how are you going to grow if you don't have the tools to manage yourself in place? Because now you're just going to be like a weed in a garden. Like it grows all over the place, makes a mess, starts entangling other plants into its weed. Whereas even though we know we can't control every single aspect of life, are you managing where and how you grow? So, okay, I feel extremely angry and upset and triggered by something my husband has said to me. I feel like I'm just about to blast open. Now, I'm talking about a healthy marriage here with a man that respects you, is not cheating on you, not lying to you, or not taking any of your haq away. I would like to make that very clear before somebody takes a clip from my video and says, oh, women should just be these quiet, docile little creatures in the corner, regardless of how they're treated. I think not. We must be treated well within these parameters in order for us to thrive. So this isn't advice for women who are in toxic relationships with unhealthy parameters. This is for people striving for healthy parameters and when they know deep down that their man is good. You have to be able to understand what triggers you and why so you can manage that correctly. So say something does come up and you've had a sip of water, you've sat down, you've laid down, you've taken 20-30 minutes away from him. Because one thing with women is we feel like whatever we have to say at any given moment needs to be said immediately. It needs to be addressed immediately. Now, are there some things that need addressing immediately? Of course they are. But when you're in a situation of a marriage, you're already in a long-term scenario. You already know that you guys are staying there, inshallah ta'ala, for the duration of your lives. So I would urge women that when you feel that you have a lack of control on your tongue because all your emotions are building up in your chest and you're like, how can he be like this? How can he be so unfair? How can you not understand me? How? When you get into this mindset of it's going all over the place and I just need to blurt out, that is your main moment where you need to remove yourself from that scenario. And you should be with a healthy enough partner to allow you to have that time. Don't leave the house. Don't storm out. Don't swear and scream. Say to them very clearly, I am at a level of emotion where I will not be able to articulate myself or communicate with you effectively right now. My upset has gone beyond a point where I can control myself. And I need a moment, and I will come back. And any man in his right mind will let you go away and calm down. Like, no man wants some, woman that's losing her mind. And if you're in a situation where you're losing your mind constantly and your standards are dropping, like your behavioral standards, you need to be honest with yourself, sis. Are you truly in a healthy relationship? Are you truly happy to be where you are? Because it's not about placing blame. Some people are just not meant to be together. And that is okay. But we can't be making these decisions frivolously over a low standard on our own behavior. Standards, when they're so focused around monetary things and having a nice car and wearing amazing clothes and constantly, looking like you're just shiny, car in a garage. Standards are about how you live your life. Standards are about what kind of things you accept from others and what kind of behavior you accept from yourself. And I was someone who was unable to control my emotions. And I came to realize it's because I had low self-esteem. I didn't put myself in environments of people that respected me. I went into environments needing and wanting love. And then I also realized, hold on a minute, I'm giving love, but in the wrong way, in the wrong environment, to the wrong person. No wonder my attitude was stinking. So it's not all about it being someone else's fault. Why have I made the decision to be here? So when you find yourself like, I'm losing my faculties or being able to speak, one thing that is the most prominent thing in your relationship that I'm sure you've heard from many other places is your man will require a high level of respect. Whether he works for Royal Mail, whether he's the CEO and someone who works under Richard Branson. Every single type of man requires respect over love. And that's what I find quite interesting within our deen as well, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never mentions love between a parent-child relationship and with in a spousal relationship, but respect and other things are always in there. And from what I've understand from my analysis of it is that when there's respect, and respect is an umbrella term, because there's kindness, patience, being able to allow the other person to be liberated in their speech, etc., etc. When you have that level of basic respect, love will naturally grow from that space. Because when you feel respected as a human being, you feel heard. Someone who respects you listens to you. Someone who respects you responds to your plea for attention, for desire, for intimacy, to be heard about a certain scenario. When you truly respect someone who's sitting across the room from you, your demeanor will completely change. And if you're sitting across the room with someone you don't respect, and it is bringing your standards down, your standard of behavior, it's bringing it down, well, you need to have a word with yourself. Are you in the right place? And is this a topic that can be covered with respect and calm to then explore it further? Because sis, no man out here is dealing with disrespect. Even the ones that lie and cheat and abuse their women. Not even them. So, in order to find that respect and that standard in someone else, you need to have that standard and level of respect within yourself already exists. And for a lot of us, especially in the brown community, that is a really hard balance to find. Because especially majority of brown girls, not really taught how to respect others and how to be respected. We're just told, don't you take no rubbish. But that's not really comprehensive enough for us to understand what that means. Because when you're in a marriage, sis, there's a certain amount of rubbish you both have to eat. Do you think it's going to be rosy every day? Like, even if you go into a marriage with very high emotional intelligence standards, high standards of living, you both got respect for each other, off you go. You think nothing's going to pop up in your marriage that triggers that? One of your parents can get sick. You can get sick. One of you loses a job. Somebody had a plan to do something and now something else has come up and it can't be done. Financial barriers, emotional barriers, physical barriers. There's couples out here whose partner might have, Khudana Hasta, got themselves into an accident. Now they might not be able to perform physically in a multitude of ways that they used to before. So having high standards doesn't mean you have low tolerance. Because I think that's a huge thing that's been promoted. Like, well, my standards are this and I'm not negotiating, end of conversation. But where's the self-reflection in that? Are you a catfish when you take your makeup off? Do you look like a completely different human being? Well, I would tone it down then, sis. Real talk. Are you the type of girl that is in a restaurant and, she doesn't get what she wants? So you're like, all like this with the waiter. Who do you think you... No respectable man wants to be with a bitch diva. Like, that's just reality. Being in your most feminine state, which is understanding who you are and being confident within that, will bring an element of calm to your demeanor anyway. Don't be in a rush for someone to love you before you can love yourself. I spent so many years looking for love in someone else's eyes for me. And that could be for a multitude of reasons, not only because it's a natural human desire to be loved, but when that's a priority over you wanting to love someone, you wanting to be a partner to someone, that's where the high standard element comes in. What are your standards? Not what standards are you willing to receive. Everybody's a good receiver. I could go up to my neighbor right now who I haven't seen in bloody years and hand them a present and they will love it. But what are you willing to give, sis? Are you willing to give calm environment? Are you willing to give clear and logical speech? Are you willing to give the parameters of respect? So as soon as you feel like you're about to lose it, you're like, I need to take a time out. Go in the room, write down the points you want to talk about. Absorb the anger within your mind and figure it out before you let it blast out onto the rest of the world. Because that ends up making us really manly and ugly. And that doesn't mean to say that there's not moments where you do need to bring that feminine out. Because the feminine energy can also be very dark. An inline feminine energy does not take any crap. When she sees there's lying going on over there, true feminine, instead of getting angry and losing her mind, she just removes herself from that situation. She just removes herself. If you can see someone, they tell white lies, but they do it very often. That turns the divine feminine off. Lack of integrity. Lack of knowing what their role is as a person. It turns you off because when you're in full alignment and you know that you're giving as much as you're asking for, you won't have to have an attitude because your whole essence gives that off. So when someone doesn't call you or text you or whatever it is, the divine feminine is not sitting there going, where is he? Where is he? Oh my God. The divine feminine is thinking, I haven't heard from him, but I've got a lot of my own stuff going on. I've got a full head to toe bath routine I need to be getting on with, and that's going to take me an hour and a half. I've got a gym session I need to go to. I've got a family event that I'm attending. I need to go and have dinner with my mum. The high quality feminine does not prioritize anything but peace and love. And even when she's not receiving peace and love. So you see someone has blatantly disrespected you, right? It could be multiple things. I'm not going to say specific examples because everyone can feel disrespected in a very different way. Now, the unhealed version, the emotionally driven version, sends essay long texts. You this, you this, you this, you this. Where have you been? What's going on? Blah, blah, blah. This whole thing. Text upon text upon text, like you're writing a PhD thesis, because you're hoping that within this level of deep explanation, I'm going to get the reaction I want out of this person. Wrong. Wrong. The only true communication comes within your actions. If you're willing to sit there and have a 4-hour conversation about why it was so bad someone disrespected you, is it fair to say that they don't respect you? Some things are unsaid. Unsaid rules. Cheating, lying, manipulation, those are unsaid rules. You don't need to explain to somebody why that's wrong for you. And that's what I mean by having higher standards. That when somebody does those kind of things, it naturally pushes you away. And we need to understand we need to understand the difference between learning these kind of things about ourselves and then mixing in the South Asian culture with it. Because women are very much promoted to be have sabr, have calm, be silent. Having sabr does not mean you take disrespect. Ukhti, Hatunlar, Bhane, sisters, you are not here. You are not born to be an endless pit of sabr for other people's bad behavior. Your sabr is for your deen. Your sabr is for the connection between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Your sabr is for outcomes you have asked for from Allah. Your sabr is for your children. Your sabr is also for your husband, but not in the way where you lower your standards of existence. You should not be asked to do that. And if you are asking for that to be of you, then where are you, sis? Because the minute you accept that, now it's your choice. You accept a lower standard in communication from yourself to others, you are inviting that to yourself. Someone gives you, airy fairy stories about certain things and oh my God, really? Oh, and you just believe everything. I'm not saying, be skeptical in places where you shouldn't be skeptical, because then that's just, borderlining into paranoia. But knowing yourself deeply enough to control your own faculties is going to naturally get you a higher standard of living. You don't want to be with some guy who is not respecting his own parents, not working hard in his life, not striving to get higher and better things from him, for himself. Deep down inside, the feminine cannot respect a man that's not striving for more and aiming for more. How many complaints do women have? He doesn't take charge. He doesn't lead us. And a leader doesn't mean, he's got loads of money and a big car. I've met plenty of people with money and things, but their standard of living and communication is on the floor. Would you rather be in a stunning looking home with a partner that completely disrespects you, or you live in an average home with a partner who says, come and sit down and tell me what's going on so I can help you figure it out? And you being a calm and feminine entity that can go into that space and say, yeah, this is wrong, and I'm not happy, and I'm feeling really unsafe, and he can come in there and scoop you up because he's got the mental and emotional stability to do that. That's having a high standard of life. Please come out of this illusion that, as long as I'm a kept Dubai wife, I'll be good. Because the real quality of life comes in the way in which you manage your life as a Muslimah. There's so many women in our deen that, maybe Khadija radiallahu anha, she was a very fine example of a woman that also had money and wealth and standards, and she went on to meet someone that didn't have any of those things. But his akhlaq, his mindset, his manner of communication his speech, it won her over. Now, am I saying you should now actively go for a really poor life with an extremely good man? Yes, I am. It goes against everything you've been taught in Western culture. And what a good man is has been sort of, mixed and matched. Like, what does standards really mean? And standards have been so pushed against money and things, money and things, money and things. If I can post it on Instagram and everyone can see how shiny my life is, my standards are really high. No, it's not. Having a stinking attitude and being non-flexible about things is not having a high standard in life. Having a high standard in life is joining forces only with someone who has the ultimate respect for you, and you can have the ultimate respect for them. Because truly in our deen, if we say that we believe in our deen, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send rizq to the people who engage in nikah. But have you engaged in this nikah using your mind more than your heart? Oh, I really love him and he's so cute and I don't want to lose him. That's not your job to think about. Your job is to think about, as a woman with high standards, as a MUSILMAH, is that somewhere I'll be happy to make dinner, because the likelihood of meeting a 1% man who can hire you a maid is low. Be honest with yourself. Is this a man I'm willing to sit down and listen to his opinion about the way I dress and the way I speak, the way I am in public? Do I respect this man enough so when he says to me, oh babe, I'm busy at work and you're at home, can you take my mum to a doctor's appointment? That you won't sit there and roll your eyes and think, why do I have to do that for this fat shit? Having high standards is knowing what you can and are willing to tolerate in order to get the best version of your response out of it. Not, oh, I'll just, live with his parents for now, even though deep down I don't want it. That's not having high standards. That's being an idiot. So you already know, say you are a woman who already knows that I won't be able to live like that, but I'll do it for now. So you've sacrificed something that you know about yourself, and now your attitude is going to start over time with resentment and the frustration, because not everything happens in timings that we want it to. Your attitude will start stinking. It will start causing problems in your marriage. So was that you being a girl full of sabr and all patient and lovely, or was that you being a stupid girl? Because you knew deep down inside it's not something you could handle. Or say from the other aspect, you're like, no, I know I can handle this. I know I can take it. But you're smart enough to put certain parameters in the way. Like, okay, we'll live here for 2 years and then we move on. That we make a focus for that particular thing. Maybe it's a man who's a CEO. Now, let's be honest. If you marry a CEO, he is going to be away from home a lot. Is that something you can handle? He might be able to provide you with the bags and the shoes and this, but he can't provide you with the emotional comfort as regularly as you might need it. So just because you can show the rest of the world, look how high my standards are because he hired a Bentley for our wedding day. But now I'm married to him, I'm a year in, and I don't see the CEO. He's away for days, sometimes weeks on end, making that money. And I don't have the mental and emotional connection that I require. Knowing yourself, yourself deeply enough to stand by what you understand will make you happy and not happy, in my opinion, is having high standards from your life. Because you understand yourself the most deeply anyone could understand you. A husband can be there for comfort, for reassurance, for safety. And most of the times, and when we feel heard and we feel safe, a lot of women's problems go out of the window. Because we're like, I'm safe, I'm good. I know no matter what happens, he's got my back and he won't think I'm ridiculous. Or even if he does think I'm ridiculous, he'll guide me in that way gently. Some women need more of a firmer communication. Like, no, babe, that's ridiculous. Know who you are as a woman. How do you want to be spoke to? How do you want to live? How do you want your everyday life to look like? Think about how you will deal, or how you currently deal with people that you don't get on with in this life, because we automatically do. Might be someone in the family, might be a colleague at work, might be some random girl at the shop. How do you deal with these people you don't get on with that are outside of your close circle before you start asking for insanely, high standards from a person when you haven't even assessed how you're going to deal with certain things? So get your health in order, get yourself exercising, hydrate your body, make sure you're getting enough vitamins and minerals. Take time to understand yourself. If you've got people in your life you don't get on with, and it's outside of certain reasons, because some reasons, even as Muslims, we're told never to get bitten by the same place twice. So this isn't about being silly and thick and having sabr and patience to a point where the whole world walks all over you. No, sis. Having high standards is knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is behind you and how he's behind you. For your respect. But you, first and foremost, have to emulate the standard that you expect from others. You have to emulate it yourself. I mean, we live in a day and age where everyone's talking about manifesting and energies, etc., etc. And you don't understand that basic thing, that if you want a calm partner, you have to try and be calm to a certain extent. You have to be respectful in your communication if you want someone to respect you. So I would say, even though monetary things are very important in this life, and there's certain things we need to survive, the standard of communication, the standard of tawakkul in Allah, the standard of deen that is run in your house before you join a house with somebody else is vital, foundational basics. Please don't think that you can bypass these things. You can bypass inner reflection. You can bypass the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in order for you to get that happy marriage at the end of the day, because it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. You need to look into yourself and understand your own flaws so you can control your responses in life. Because your response is all you have. That's all you've got. Because say, for example, you agree. We'll go back to the in-laws thing because I'll do that video next. You agree to live with your in-laws. You get there and you're like, God, I hate this. Whose decision was that? Yours. Don't then say, oh, but I really hate it now. You change it, you this, you that. You set up the parameters in the start because you didn't understand who you were as a person and what you could deal with. That's the harsh reality of it. So now, if you've made that decision off your own accord, now something bad is happening and you react badly out of anger, frustration and pain, that feels legitimate to you. But for the outside person, you already made that decision. Same goes for women that get engaged with married men. 6 months down the line, 6 months go by down in the line and you're like, I'm sleeping alone at night, I've fallen in love with him. And now you're acting all freaking nuts and crazy. Like, where are you? You're not loving me. He's thinking, you already know. You already knew the parameters. You made this choice. So girls, get out of the victim mindset and get out of the mindset of arrogance, that standards are only something that you deserve to have rather than obtain and also provide that level of standard to somebody else. It's time to get practical, because there's so many women out here and you say, oh, he doesn't do this and he doesn't do that. And under that, did you communicate it? Did you communicate that beforehand? Okay, maybe it's something you realize later on down the line, but have you taken the opportunity to figure out how you're going to communicate that to your man in the best way? Because especially after you've engaged in a certain time in your relationship, you should know that person well enough to know how I'm going to approach them with particular topics. But before you get to that stage, the only person you can truly speak from a place of truth and honesty is yourself. Do you know yourself enough to agree or disagree with certain things that truly align with your sense of purpose and value? So let's work on ourselves, girls. Balance your hormones, get yourself healthy, hydrate, look after your skin, look after your body. Because whether you like it or not, there's certain things men expect from women. And in order for us to be able to find that man that can give us what we want, we need to make sure we up our standards to no end. We need to make our standard of emotional intelligence, our managing of emotions, our physical and mental health, those things need to be a priority. And if you're a girl that's still at home and you're finding it difficult to manage your emotions pre-marriage, sis, you know the work you need to do. Get your hormones, your health, your mindset in order. Give yourself something that makes you feel fulfilled before you start running to a marriage to do that for you. Because this whole illusion of if there's a house being provided, a maid being provided, I've got this, I've got money coming out of every crevice I could imagine. I can tell you right now that is not the recipe to a happy marriage. You might have ease in life, but that's not a recipe for a happy marriage. A recipe for a happy marriage is two individuals that are tethered to the instructions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And without exploring your deen and understanding that without praying your salah, it's going to be very hard for you to keep a calm, cool state of mind. Without making sure that you aren't fit and healthy and looking after the amana, the body that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you, you are not going to be hormonally or mentally balanced. How are you going to act properly if your chemical imbalance in your body is incorrect? How do you expect to advance with that? How do you expect to advance when you eat crisps for dinner? Are you getting enough protein? Are you getting enough fruits and vegetables, vitamins and minerals? Are you engaging in life in a way where you're really attracting that guy that you think, oh, you know what, I'd love to be married to him? Because that gym-going CEO guy, he's not looking at some lazy girl that wears makeup instead of looking after her skin and her health and going, that's my dream girl. Never. It's not going to happen, sis. So pick yourself up from your hairy moustache, bad breath. Your periods aren't even coming on time. So you don't assess these things and you want the best from life. It's not going to happen. So before you look at the standards and the outwards world, improve your own standards. And please let me know what you think in the comments. If there's anything else you want me to cover, I'd happily do so. But on that note, go look after yourself, honey. Look after yourself physically. Look after yourself mentally. If you need to go to therapy, go. If you can't afford it more than once a month, do it once a month. Minimum. Have some self-reflection on yourself. Why do you respond the way you do? Why do you like the things you like? Why are you unhappy in certain phases or places in your life that you're unhappy? Maybe you don't like your job, so why are you still there? Oh, well, that just sounds so simple. Yes, it does. It does sound simple, but that's because we get bogged down with detail rather than sorting out the main issue. Don't expect another human being to walk into your life because you've got this list of standards and you're like, oh, I'm fixed. Never gonna happen, sis. You might be fixed. You might have a perfect marriage for the first 3 to 5 years, or then you get pregnant. Then you're all out of control. Have you created an environment of calm and stability between you? Have you behaved in a way where your man can respect you enough to then enter that place of loving and giving? Because men need something to work on with as well. It's not just us. So we need to make sure that we are so in tune with ourselves, respect our bodies, our minds, and our hearts to a point where naturally, when somebody is below that standard, he's not good with his parents, he doesn't work hard, doesn't do any of that stuff, you don't even want to give time of day to that person. It doesn't even occur to you to give time of day to that person. Not because you're arrogant or selfish or rude. It's because you understand, in that environment, I will not flourish because I know myself. So get yourselves in order. And if you want to hear more, or you've got more suggestions about which direction this conversation might go in, leave it in the comments. Have a really good day, sis. And remember, working on yourself and having all that love and patience and kindness for yourself is the only way you're truly going to be able to have it for someone else. Otherwise, your emotions and your frustrations take over your ability to communicate properly. And that is an issue that all women tend to have. So best of luck and see you in the next episode.